Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 2, Other Heroes of Chaos. Chapter 117, Favor and Intimidation. Xiao Qiye's loose outer robe was half opened, revealing the unclosed collar of his inner garment. When he sat down, he blocked off much of the light. There was still moisture on his body, and he felt a little more comfortable after wiping his face with a clean handkerchief. He then rapped a bent finger thrice on the floor and said to Chen Yang, "What's the matter? Sit up and talk." Chen Yang promptly rubbed his face clean with his arm and sat straight up. He said, "We encountered some incidents during our return trip to Libei. I'm reporting to Master first, as I do not dare to make a decision arbitrarily." Xiao Qiye picked up Shen Zequin's chopsticks and listened as Chen Yang recalled what happened. Shen Zequin left the table midway to take a bath. Xiao Qiye finished the rice in his bowl and sat for a moment without showing any intent to ask for another helping. He asked, "How is Gu Jin's injury?" "We called for a physician after we left Changzhou camp. Gu Jin's fever subsided during the journey, but the wound on his back is festering badly. Ji Gang Shifu took a look at it last night and told Gu Jin to abstain from certain foods. He also gave him instructions on several matters and said that he would be able to recover if he recuperates for about a month." At this point, Chen Yang paused for a moment before continuing. Fortunately, his eyes and ears were not hurt. Gu Jin's eyesight and hearing far exceeded that of the average person. It was a one-of-a-kind natural talent among these guards. This matter would be a lot harder to resolve had he been wounded in his eyes and ears. If that happened, then even Xiao Qiye would not be able to swallow this injustice, let alone Chen Yang. Tudalong Banner is a domain the Changzhou camp of the eastern mountain range would patrol daily. It's originally quite a distance away from the Hanshi tribe. To think Gu Jin's vanguard squad actually retreated all the way there. Xiao Qiye had gathered plenty from Chen Yang's statements. He said astutely, "This shows that the Libei armored cavalry has been retreating. The battles Father and Shifu are fighting aren't going smoothly." The insects' cries on summer nights created quite the din as it drifted through the bamboo curtains, and it was so hot both inside and outside the room that it made one restless. Xiao Qiye looked at the candle flame for a moment and said in a hushed tone, "Eldest brother's incapability to lead the troops is a heavy blow to Libei armored cavalry. Father promptly came out of retirement to boost the troops' plunging morale and soften the impact of the word defeat. But he has not been on the battlefield in person for nearly 15 years. On the other hand, his opponent, Amu has never left the front line of the Hanshi tribe in these 15 years. Times have changed. Relying blindly on Father is not the way to victory. I often say not to have a change of people right before the battle. Even the best general has to build up a rapport with his soldiers over time. All of Father's troops 15 years ago have been replaced, and those who can stage a comeback with him are few and far between. The ones he is leading now are a new batch of military officers and soldiers who are already used to eldest brother's style of handling matters. Both sides need to mutually adjust to each other during a critical battle, and this is not an easy thing to achieve. When Xiao Fangxiu established the Libei armored cavalry, the word armored cavalry was the best description of the Libei army. At that time, Libei was unable to catch up with the Bianchi cavalry's horses, so Xiao Fangxiu adopted the measure of making them heavier. He not only had the soldiers all armored up, but even the horses of Libei, too. Such an army was a terrifying force to behold in a frontal assault. Like the mighty torrents of the mountains, the impact of the collision was able to annihilate their foes in a blink of an eye. There was simply no time for the Bianchi cavalry to draw their machetes, and even if they did, they could not stab through those armors. Even the ferocious Hanshi tribe was not willing to fight a drawn-out war with the armored cavalry. Their light and swift mobility was their only remaining advantage. And it was on this basis that Xiao Fangxiu kept piling on more weight to armor up the Libei armored cavalry until he eventually forged the Libei armored cavalry into a real wall of iron. When Qi Zuyan led the Qidong garrison troops through the territory, the sounds of their horses' hooves boomed like thunder. But when the Libe armored cavalry did the same, the sound they generated was not just like thunder but were as real as thunderclaps. That weight could make one lose the courage to continue fighting just from the sound of it alone, so much to the extent that no one could find the Libe armored cavalry's weakness for as long as 5 or 6 years. However, Amuir was also a fearless warrior who during his constant engagement with the Libe armored cavalry, had taken advantage of their heaviness to the fullest. As long as the Han-Shi tribe's cavalry was fast enough, they would be able to loot, retreat, disperse, deter back, and encircle the foe in that order, like a swarm of blood-sucking flies that, despite being unable to penetrate through those solid and sturdy armors, would also emerge unscathed. The way Lei Jingzhi gathered the bandits together to harass the imperial army was precisely an imitation of the Han-Shi tribe's way of combating the Libe armored cavalry. It was just that Lei Jingzhi did not have horses that fast, nor soldiers that strong. It was at this time that Xiao Jiming took over the Libe armored cavalry. The first decision he faced back then was whether to retain the weight of the Libe armored cavalry. In the eyes of the veteran generals, he was a lad who was still wet behind the ears, and his refined and humble personality was one aspect of him that the veterans who were used to Xiao Fangxiu could not stand. He made a completely different choice from Xiao Fangxiu. He reduced the weight of the Libe armored cavalry, making the wall of iron thinner but equipping it with the mobility to turn around quickly. And thus, the Libe armored cavalry shifted from being a heavy cavalry into a cavalry that veered towards being a little more armored up. It was with this change that Libe began to possess the characteristic of fast. This was where glacial armored cavalry originated from, and it was also the fundamental reason he was able to stride across the borders of 2 territories in one night. They were able to keep up with the Han-Shi tribe's speed. Coupled with the constant refining of their battle formations, they became even tougher to deal with. The new batch of generals was all selected by Xiao Jiming. Their working style was mutually compatible with Xiao Jiming's, and they were already used to Xiao Jiming's receptiveness to their suggestions. Perhaps, they respected Xiao Fangxiu just the same on an emotional level, but they might not necessarily be able to adapt to Xiao Fangxiu. Respect alone could not win them battles. The light in their eyes as they looked up to the legendary god of war would be worn down again and again as they mutually butted heads with one another. In the end, the glorious Prince of Libe would also fall off the pedestal on which he had been placed on to become a myth that had faded into obscurity along with the tides of change. When that time came, the legend of the Libe armored cavalry would also come to an end. They would become a bunch of disorganized soldiers plagued by mutual discord and internal strife among themselves. A concentrated force excessively dependent on a centralized command was an advantage, but it also had its disadvantages. Qi Zuyan was the commander-in-chief who had intensively studied the Libe armored cavalry the most. She was very well aware of the drawbacks in the Libe armored cavalry's reliance on its commanding officer. That was why she had been trying her best to avoid leading Qidong down the same route as the Libe armored cavalry after she became the commander-in-chief of the Qidong 5 Commandery's military forces. She went all out to establish the Qidong General's Barrack, which took in men who had the potential and the making to lead troops. It was her confidence in her hold over absolute military power and authority that she dared to delegate authority to these men. She gave Lu Guangbai this much authority because Lu Guangbai had the capability. She understood what kind of generals were suitable to lead what kind of squads. In Xiao Qiye's eyes, Qi Zuyan was the most qualified person among their generation to be the commander-in-chief. People who could fight could be the general of an army, but they might not necessarily be able to be a commander-in-chief who could command armies from all quarters. If one were to rank the 4 great generals of the world, no doubt Qi Zuyan would be the chief. She had long come to discern the Libe armored cavalry's weakness, and she had reminded Xiao Jiming of it. Xiao Qiye's ostracization was inevitable. With one hand on his knee, Xiao Qiye poured the melted candle wax into the small porcelain plate. The tips of his fingers came into contact with it, but he liked this kind of searing pain. He watched as the candle light flickered and said, "Chen Yang, when I left home at 17, I asked my eldest sister-in-law when I would be able to return home. This question brought tears to her eyes, and she cried the entire night alone in her room. When my eldest brother and I got on the horses, she stuffed many cakes from Libé into my bundle and even hid a flask of on horseback within. She said she didn't know when I would be able to return home either, but they would always be waiting for me in Libé. I entered the capital as a hostage because my eldest brother won a victory in battle. I hate Shen Wei to the core. At that time, I thought the defeat of the Zongbo troops was to be blamed. I never thought of myself to be more outstanding than my eldest brother, but I was equally attached to Hanjian Mountains and the racecourses. I used to lie prone on the ground and listen to the sounds from the lands of Libé. When I left, I even wanted to take the soil of Libé along with me. I attempted to survey the horizons for a glimpse of Libé from the top of the tallest building in Chu capital, but even men could not see it when it flew up into the clouds. It was then I understood for the first time how much of a remote possibility it was to return home. I've learned plenty from Shifu, but it was only when I was in Chu capital that I began to understand the truths behind those words. I am a man burning with ambitions, and Chu capital is the teacher that taught me to restrain all those desires. My encounter with Lanzhou did not happen by accident. He was the last line of defense when I was about to hit my limit and lose it. He is also the indulgence and freedom I lost and regained. Xiao Qiye lifted a finger, as if he had drawn a line. I am complete. The parts of me that were broken and lacking are now encased with steel. I would no longer stop when I walked out of Chu capital again. Whether it was 20 years ago or 10 years ago, my father and eldest brother both made the best choice, and now, it's my turn. The mountain we surmount might not necessarily remain our foes forever. I acknowledge how outstanding my father and eldest brother are. I revere and cherish them, but that is the part that belongs to family, not the Libé armored cavalry. We are wolves that have strayed from the pack. Our return to the pack is not for us to submit and bow to the commands of others, but to carve out our own place and positions among them. Xiao Qiye bent over slightly, his gaze as sharp as a blade. Libé cannot suffer another defeat. This isn't a matter of the Xiao clan. I understand that, as do my father and eldest brother. Who should inherit this iron wall? Anyone. As long as he can shoulder the responsibility. I'm going back to Libé and not just going home. Guo Wulai is a veteran of Libé, he knows all of your functions best, and not injuring Gu Jin's eyes and ears is the most merciful warning he is giving me. So cheer up, Chen Yang. Our opponents are all the battle-hardened seniors who have been fighting on the battlefield for a long time. There is no battle in this world that must be lost. All those impregnable defenses and impenetrable encirclements are but facades. I'm going back. I want a Libé armored cavalry that truly belongs to me. Chen Yang's fingertips trembled slightly. Xiao Qiye's words had him all fired up. He had been sitting on his knees until his legs had both gone numb, but that tingling sensation leaped up his spine as he faced such a Xiao Qiye, his fear all swept away by the fervor coursing through his blood. By the time Shen Zequan emerged from his bath, Chen Yang had already taken his leave and left the room. Xiao Qiye was lying on the Sumi couch staring into space. The windows were open, and there was a porcelain jar on the veranda with a few stalks of lotuses in it. Their delicate fragrance wafted through the gaps. Xiao Qiye rested his head on an arm and looked up at the starry night sky. The breeze of summer nights was always so gentle, coming and going without a trace, one could barely feel it if not for the scent of lotuses permeating the air. Xiao Qiye was not only feeling hot, he was also weary. However, he had his own pride. He was unwilling to show his fatigue easily, so he could only stuff these feelings into these sleepy moments as he stared into nothing and pretended not to be tired at all. The sky was studded with stars this night. He was in a bit of a trance. Shen Zequan blew out the candle and threw his outer robe on the back of a chair. He scraped an icy cold finger gently across Xiao Qiye's cheek, leaving in its path a temperature that belied excitement. Xiao Qiye returned to his senses and locked gazes with him. Even though he had just showered, Shen Zequin's fingers were still icy cold. That icy cold finger brushed across Xiao Qiye's cheek, as if comforting him. Xiao Qiye tilted his head a little to the side to be a little closer to Shen Zequin's palm. Xiao Qiye really missed Shen Zequin. This kind of longing was fervent and urgent, but it was not strange. Every inch of his body missed Shen Zequin. This was a common occurrence. However, this longing was not just limited to his physical self, it was also the desire raging in his heart. It was a love far deeper and much more indescribable. He felt an unprecedented excitement lying in wait behind all of this fatigue. Shen Zequin sensed his rising temperature. Xiao Qiye had been on horseback for days, but he was unable to fall asleep right now. Only both of them understood the intrusive look in his eyes, which hardened along with the movements of Shen Zequin's finger. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. In the near future, there would be countless of such absences. And now, Xiao Qiye wanted to possess every single moment they were alone together. He suspected that vines would sprout out of the longing in his chest and would wind around the armored hooves on which he raced across the grasslands, holding him back. He wanted to invade Shen Zequin, penetrating deep into him again, and in the process, leave his own scent on him. Not only that, he also wanted to be filled with Shen Zequin's scent. Both of them had to have the same scent. This was a childish obsession of the wolf pup. It was as if doing so would prove that they could never be apart. Xiao Qiye pressed his cheek against Shen Zequin's palm, sniffing his scent before the small furrow in his brows finally relaxed. Xiao Qiye wanted to tell Shen Zequin how much he truly loved him. Perhaps there were many ways to express love. But now, he only wanted to use the most intense kind. The Sumi couch was not big enough for both of them. Xiao Qiye reached out to pull down the bamboo blinds and covered up that bit of gap in the window, shutting the moon outside. Lan Zhou did not need the moonlight. That naked, lithe softness of his only needed one person's gaze on him, Xiao Qiye's. Shen Zequin rode on Xiao Qiye as they kissed in the darkness. Their hot breaths intertwining inseparably together, its heat edging all the way down to their necks, chests and even their abdomens. Shen Zequin's neck was flushed all over. Xiao Qiye felt this to be some kind of silent acclamation. It was also Lan Zhou's indulgence. As with Shen Zequin's tremblings, these were all urging Xiao Qiye could not rein in. Xiao Qiye's ferocity caused Shen Zequin to lift his head and gasp for breath. Shen Zequin pressed down on Xiao Qiye's chest and attempted to make him stop this aggressive invasion. But he was also looking down at Xiao Qiye with tears in his eyes, seducing Xiao Qiye with his gaze into continuing with the fierceness, into keeping up with the meanness. Do all you want. This was what the expression in Shen Zequin's eyes explicitly telling Xiao Qiye. Xiao Qiye was brimming with energy as he held Shen Zequin securely on top of him. He was panting. Neither of them averted their eyes, as if they could not bear to look away from each other for even a moment. Shen Zequin's hair gradually scattered all over his shoulders amidst the intense thrusting. He clenched Xiao Qiye's clothes until it creased, as if he was a drowning man clutching at straw while shudders rocked through him. Grow a little more meat on you. Xiao Qiye said in a raspy voice, Lan Zhou. Shen Zequin's damp locks of hair stuck to his face. In the moments between kissing and panting, he could not find it in himself to answer. Sighs escaped through his lips as he reached out with his fingers as if to grab onto something. But Xiao Qiye held his hands and did not wait for him to come to his senses as he entered with unhurried tenderness a slow, gentle ride after the gallop to his heart's content before. That is, if he had not gone in that deep. Shen Zequin let Xiao Qiye hold him in position as he took him all into the deepest depths. The never-ending onslaught of thrusts turned his mind into mush. His misty, lidded eyes became even more of an aphrodisiac, while the corner of his eyes glistened with pleasure as Xiao Qiye permeated every pore of his being. Xian, Shen Zequin followed his heart and called out his name, ah yeah. His calls caused Xiao Qiye to break out into a sweat. Shen Zequan lowered his head and edged along Xiao Qiye's temple with the tip of his nose to disperse those beads of sweat. He called out wickedly, "Erlang!" Xiao Qiye came to an abrupt stop. He grasped Shen Zequan's jaw and corrected the position of his face, then kissed him hard in between gasps. These calls threw all those that once had in order into disarray. It messed up the anxieties he had concealed away. Xiao Qiye forgot them all. He did not need any of them, he only wanted Shen Zequan. They could not indulge to their heart's content on the sumi couch, and so the bedding on the bed was pulled down onto the rug. Even the pillow on the rug was drenched after some time. Shen Zequan's eyes were half closed. He was wet to the bone, his energy fully expended. Xiao Qiye propped himself up on his arms. He was still inside him. He lowered his head to press his forehead against Shen Zequan's, all the while lightly gasping for breath. Lanzhou, Xiao Qiye's sweat-drenched forehead inched down. He nuzzled against the crook of Shen Zequan's neck and called out in a muted voice, "Lanzhou." Shen Zequan lifted his hand and placed it on Xiao Qiye's hair. They clung this inseparably close together, in perfect harmony in every sense of the word. Shen Zequan raised his legs, indicating for Xiao Qiye to press down into him. Instead of doing so, Xiao Qiye tightened his arms around him. His embrace was so tight that Shen Zequan found it hard to breathe. He stroked the back of Xiao Qiye's head with varying strength and tilted his head to breathe a light puff of air into Xiao Qiye's ear. Very slowly, he called out, "Langzhe." Xiao Qiye bid him. Shen Zequan let out a husky laugh. He sensed something trickling out of him, so he said, "You came." Xiao Qiye switched to kissing him. Both of them grind against each other intimately, squeezing out even more fluid as they moved. It still seemed as though Xiao Qiye's sexual desire was about to rear its head again, causing Shen Zequan to sigh repeatedly. Xiao Qiye initially thought pausing for a bit as he had been going at it rather savagely, but when he looked at the expression in Shen Zequan's eyes, he continued to penetrate deep into him. Xiao Qiye stroked Shen Zequan's cheeks and inserted 2 fingers into his mouth, leaving Shen Zequan's tongue with nowhere to hide. Both of them clung close together, panting at the same pace as they took in each other's expressions all into their eyes. The last time was not intense, rather, it was more like a never-ending session of tender love-making. When Xiao Qiye finally slid out of him, Shen Zequan was no longer able to make a single sound. All of his vague grunts and moans had been devoured clean by Xiao Qiye. As the waves of heat washed over him, he grasped Xiao Qiye's jaw. Tears he could not stop soaked the hair on his temples wet. Xiao Qiye finally lowered his body to snuggle with him, skin on skin. In the end, both of them were too exhausted that Shen Zequan could barely keep his eyes open. He was still grasping Xiao Qiye's jaw. Xiao Qiye seemingly let out a laugh and leaned over to kiss him. They kissed for a moment before falling asleep together like the Xiao Qiye on Shen Zequan. Xiao Qiye did not dream. *****. It was already considered late when they broke apart the next day. Xiao Qiye had only just returned after leading his troops, so no one would have castigated him for it, but he woke up earlier than expected. Their lovemaking had dispelled emotions that might have been suppressed otherwise. When he got up, Shen Zequan made to wake up too, so Xiao Qiye covered the latter with a quilt and kissed him back onto the bed. Military affairs. Shen Zequan struggled tiredly and sleepily in the darkness, and said with his eyes closed, "I'll go later, in the afternoon. We'll discuss Xe province's garrison troops later." Xiao Qiye said, "I want to settle the issue with Lei Jingzhi with Zhou Gui first." 2 hours. Shen Zequan let out a long sigh. "I'll be there in 2 hours." Xiao Qiye stroked him and said, "It's the same if you go tomorrow. There's no hurry to do it these few days. Go on, go back to sleep. I'll be back for lunch at noon. Call Shifu along too." Shen Zequan uttered an acknowledgement, although it was unknown if he had actually heard Xiao Qiye clearly. Xiao Qiye changed his robe after taking his bath. He did not get anyone to go in and clean up, but he had instructed Ding Tao and Gu Jin well in advance to stand guard in the courtyard. Then he left, taking Chen Yang and Xiao Tianya with him. ******. Zhou Gui was already in the study, having a few rounds of discussion with his advisors. It was getting increasingly bright out there, but there was still no sign of Shen Zequan. When he finally saw Xiao Qiye, he hurried out to greet him. He dismissed the others, leaving only Kong Ling in the room to serve tea. Xiao Qiye did not look to be in an amicable mood today, and all his so-called frivolity had been fully curbed. He cut such an intimidating presence that Zhou Gui and Kong Ling did not dare to take deep breaths. Xiao Qiye had something on his mind, and so he did not beat around the bush after taking his seat. I let Lei Jingzhi go in the east. He should arrive in Dun province in 3 days. Kong Ling had done a head count of the bandits last night, and he had gotten suspicious when he did not see Lei Jingzhi. Hearing these words now, however, had dispelled his misgivings. They were already on familiar terms with Xiao Qiye, so there was no need to be as conscientious as before. He gave a light cough and said, "Your lordship presumably must have your own plans." Zhou Gui still had doubts, so he asked, "Lei Jingzhi is a scheming man. Is your lordship planning to keep him for your own use by letting him go? This man is too shrewd to submit himself into compliance." There was no warmth in Xiao Qiye's eyes as he said, "Although we've captured the majority of Lei Jingzhi's men this time, he still has men remaining in Mount Luo. And it's not just that. There are still plenty of Lei Jingzhi around even without this one Lei Jingzhi. Before Tse province has its own garrison troops, it'll prove to be too difficult to get rid of them once and for all." Kong Ling thought of what Shen Zequan had said a few days before. He nodded at Xiao Qiye's words and said, "That's right. Just as the vice commander said, as long as food is scarce in Zongbo, then decent would continuously be reduced to being bandits. There is no way to eradicate this issue just by force alone. Lei Jingzhi lost his right-hand men this time, yet he was still able to escape alone from my hands. Even if he has a glib tongue, he won't be able to clear himself of suspicions among the bandits." Xiao Qiye said, "I'm also going to give him a hand and make him the imperial army's spy that the bandits of the 2 prefectures of Dun province and Duan province will revolt against. This person is capable. He will certainly not sit still and wait for death. With that, the bandits will be thrown into internal turmoil and will be too preoccupied to set their eyes on Tse province." It was only because he had intentionally released Lei Jingzhi that Lei Jingzhi would have to suffer. Tse province was presently powerless, and this was already the best option out of the better strategies available to them. Kong Ling caught a hint of his intent when he heard this. He asked, "Your lordship goes to such an extent to think for Tse province. Is it because you are preparing to set off for Libei?" Xiao Qiye turned the teacup around and said, "Time waits for no man, and Libei is currently often at war. It's inadvisable for me to remain in Tse province for much longer. Moreover, Qidong has already delayed for 2 months. Once Jizuyan arrives, it'd be hard for me to leave even if I want to. After I leave Tse province, Lanzhou will still continue to assist Tse province. As I said before when I deployed the troops, I will not concern myself in all the matters concerning the garrison troops of Tse province. But if both of you gentlemen still need the imperial army, just get Lanzhou to send me a notice, and I'll be sure to arrive within a day." The way he put it was worth pondering over. At least, in Kong Ling's ears, it sounded like both a favor and an intimidation. Xiao Qiye said to let Lanzhou inform him. This indicated that he would not listen to the words of any one of them from Tse province. Lanzhou would have to be the one to decide whether or not to let him lead his troops back. However, Lanzhou was not someone who could be easily fooled, so they could not take advantage of the distance to deceive the imperial army into deploying their troops. In addition to the above, his words carried another layer of meaning. Kong Ling was feeling a little apprehensive as he wiped his sweat. If Xe province dared lay a hand on Shenzhen, Xiao Qiye was sure to hasten there within a day. End chapter. Note, Lang Zhe meant wolf pup. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 2, Other Heroes of Chaos. Chapter 118, Past Affairs. Kong Ling did not dare to grumble even to himself for fear that Xiao Qiye might sense something amiss. After wiping his sweat, he took a sip of his tea trying to cover it up, only to make it more conspicuous. He said as he nodded, "Your lordship is returning to Libei to fight battles with the Biancha tribes, so Xe province can't possibly trouble the imperial army any further. Moreover, with the vice commander's presence here, Lei Jingzhi won't be able to get anything out of it even if he stages a comeback." Zhou Gui still had not gotten the hint at this point. He merely said, "The march of an army over a long distance is beset with difficulties. Xe province is to the south of Libei, so Libei has nothing to worry about back here. If we can be of any use to your lordship in the future, Xe province will surely do its best to help. As for those bandits who have been taken into custody at the prison, how does your lordship wish to deal with them? Several of those bandits were once one of the few bandit chiefs from Mount Luo. There's not much use in killing them, so why not release them together with Lei Jingzhi?" Xiao Qiye already had a plan in mind. He said, "I've already bribed a few of the bandits to spread around the news that Lei Jingzhi has been released by the imperial army. Half a month later, they will break out of the prison and flee with Ding Niu and Luer. When the time comes, Xe province can just send men to pursue them and drive them back to Dun province's territory. They have men who died at the hands of the imperial army. Once they conclude that the siege in the east was a leak from Lei Jingzhi, they will never let him off." Zhou Gui and Kong Ling nodded in unison. Thinking as Xiao Qiye was about to return to Libei soon, Zhou Gui decided that he had to discuss the military provisions with him. They had conferred with Shenzhen a few days ago regarding the military provisions allowance for the imperial army next year, but Shenzhen had promptly turned it down. Xe province had originally planned to give the imperial army an allowance of 16,000 dan of grains after spring next year. Zhou Gui faced Xiao Qiye and deliberated over his words. "We know it is a small amount, but it's a little token of appreciation from Xe province to your lordship. I have already told the vice commander of this. The vice commander understands Xe province's difficulties. He wants us to sell these grains at a suitable price to Cha province and use the money as funds for the reconstruction. We have been thinking about it for the past few days, and we still feel bad about it. Your lordship, there is a piece of vacant land to the northwest of Xe province. It's the former site of the Biwen hunting grounds. At the very beginning, we wanted to till the land and cultivate fields there, but the soil isn't suitable. We couldn't grow any grains in it except sow some rape seeds. Rather than leaving it idle, we might as well gift it to your lordship to create a track for horse riding or to build a new camp as you wish." The emergence of the Biwen hunting grounds preceded the Nanlin hunting grounds. Owing to the rise of Xiao Fangxiu in the north later on, the imperial Li family cancelled the annual ceremony at the Biwen hunting grounds and had the venue changed to Nanlin hunting grounds, where they could feel more at ease. This piece of land was not small. In fact, it was even bigger than Xiao Qiye's military drill grounds at Mount Feng in Chu capital. It was far enough to pose a threat to Dan City and close enough to provide support to Xe province. Moreover, it stood on Libei's boundary line. It was an excellent position from which to advance and retreat, launch an assault and defend. Xiao Qiye's interest was piqued. He dreaded the Kedong garrison troops in the south. Shenzhen was remaining behind in Zongbo. If he did not have a place to station his troops, he would have to rush to and forth between two ends. Never mind if it was just him alone. But if he ran around like this with tens of thousands of men in tow, then he would not only expose their tracks but also draw unnecessary troubles to themselves. But Xiao Qiye had no money. He had scrimped and saved to build up the military drill grounds at Mount Feng. It was not as imposing as the 8 Great Training Division's military grounds, but it consumed real silver. His noble title was useless now, and there was no one to pay him a salary. His residences in Chu capital had turned into lifeless objects he could see but not eat. Even taking out a handful of copper coins would prove to be a problem for him. The little jade bead earring Shen Zequin was currently wearing on his right ear was polished by Xiao Qiye himself. In the past, Xiao Qiye would not even blink an eye at losing a few ivory fans. Now that Lan Zhou's little bamboo fan had gotten stained on one side and he had promised to have it replaced, he was thinking of making one himself later. Seeing as Xiao Qiye had still yet to say a word, Zhou Gui thought that the piece of land they were offering was not to his liking, so he said, "The place is big. Although it is a venue for hunting, it has fallen into years of disrepair and the errand runners have all left. The perimeter wall seems to me to be still solid. After your lordship takes over, you'll just need to fortify its defenses a little, and you'll be able to use it." Kongling also added, "Your lordship helped Xe province out of its predicament. Naturally, we will not try to fool your lordship on this matter. We had also mentioned this place to the vice commander yesterday, and the vice commander said he would personally make a trip down there to take a look when he finds the time the next 2 days. Seems like he likes it, too." It had been a passionate night last night and Shen Zequin did not get the time or chance to bring this matter up with him. Moreover, Xiao Qiye had left in a hurry in the morning, and Shen Zequin was still not wide awake then. "That place is good. It's suitable as a resting place and temporary lodging for the Imperial Army. Lan Zhou and I both like it." Without a change in expression, Xiao Qiye said, "There's no need for both of you to stand on such ceremony, but thank you." Shen Zequin got out of bed and put on a plain, white set of regular robes. He originally wanted to go out, but the traces from their lovemaking were too obvious. The marks on his chest, waist, the side of his legs and crook of his neck could be covered up with clothes. But he was too thin-skinned. They had gone at it for far too long last night that the lingering redness at the sides of his eyes would not fully recede until the next day. Ding Tao was standing on the veranda feeding the red carps. He was also rattling on and on, telling Gu Jin a story. The fish bait in his hands kept leaking into the vat where the 2 red carps gobbled it down. By the time Gu Jin realized what was happening, one of them had already gotten so bloated that it flipped its belly up. Gu Jin made to beat up Ding Tao. Sensing trouble, Ding Tao hurriedly stuffed the remaining fish bait into his pocket and fled to the principal room. He yelled, "Young master! Bad news! Jin Ji fed the fish to death." Shen Zequin picked up the sweet soup from the tray. He gave a bowl to Ding Tao and told him to sit under the eaves to drink it. He then asked Gu Jin, "How are your injuries today?" Gu Jin saw that Shen Zequin was wearing wooden clogs and knew that the latter would not be heading out today. He bowed in greeting and said, "It's much better." The physician came as scheduled to change the bandages. "Since young master is not going out today, shall we get the kitchen to prepare the meals now?" Clusters of tree shades decorated the grounds in the courtyard, while shadows of flowers adorned the panels of the 2 wide-open doors. The weather was fine today. It was not yet noon, but it was already starting to get hot. Shen Zequin's fingers that were basking in the sunlight looked as though they were clutching a handful of crystal-clear ember. He could not stand the cold, and he also disliked the heat. He looked to be exhausted today, and his entire person exuded lethargy. The weather is hot. Shifu dreads greasy food, and Cian gets cranky easily. Get the chef to choose and make some light dishes. You're currently nursing an injury, so do as the physician and Shifu say and get the kitchen to make an individual portion for you." Shen Zequin retreated half a step and returned to the coolness of the shade under the eaves. "Ding Tao, go to the courtyard and call Shifu over." Ji Gang did not stay in the separate courtyard Shen Zequin had initially given to him. Instead, he lived in a courtyard together with Jiao Tianya and the rest. People tend to fear loneliness when they grow old, and it was inevitable for him to get all sentimental now that Qi Huilian was no longer around to squabble with him. The good thing was that there were those from Libei and those who originally came from the Jinyi Wei amongst this batch of guards. All of them held the Ji clan's boxing style in esteem, and they hoped to gain pointers and guidance from Ji Gang. That was why they liked to hang around Ji Gang when they were not on duty. Moreover, they were all lads who had yet to get married. Ji Gang found them boisterous and lively, which made him happy to be around them, too. Ji Gang went to bed early and woke up early nowadays. He got up at the first quarter of the hour of Mao today and watched Jiao Tianya and the others practice shadow boxing in the courtyard. After drinking his tea, he came out for a stroll and found that Shen Zequin was still asleep. Therefore, he took another stroll with his hands at his back and returned to find that Shen Zequin was still not up. So, on seeing him now, he could not refrain from asking, "Why did you get up so late today? Have you fallen ill?" Taken aback, Shen Zequin paused for a moment before he said, "I overslept." Ji Gang noted that he seemed to be under the weather today, so he said, "Although there are plenty of issues at present, you also have to take care of your health. I'll cook a couple of fish dishes for you tonight." As they chatted, Xiao Qiye returned. He saw Ding Tao at the entrance of the courtyard and knew that Ji Gang had come. He took off his outer garment and asked Chen Yang as he washed his hands, "Did Shifu came in the morning, too?" Chen Yang answered truthfully, "Young master bought Shifu a skylark a few days earlier, and Shifu would always take a stroll with the bird every morning when he gets up. Young master was still sleeping when he came to the entrance of our courtyard this morning, so he asked about him several times." Xiao Qiye wiped his hands and walked along the walkway to the front. When he entered, he carried out a disciple bow to Ji Gang. He had been very respectful to Ji Gang and Zoqian Kai back then at the Plum Blossom residence, but Ji Gang haven't forgiven him for that kick he gave Shen Zequin 6 years ago. Now that Shen Zequin and Xiao Qiye were in the same boat rowing towards a common goal, Ji Gang thought that they had buried the hatchet in private and were merely friends on good terms with one another. So, for Shen Zequin's sake, he would not make things difficult for Xiao Qiye. Ji Gang and Zoqian Kai were brothers. According to seniority, Xiao Qiye's paying of obeisance to him was only proper. Ji Gang nodded and said concisely, "Your lordship may dispense with such formalities." Xiao Qiye took his seat. Ji Gang was at the head, so Xiao Qiye and Shen Zequin were sitting face to face with one another. During the meal, Ji Gang asked questions relating to the suppression of the bandits as well as matters about Zoqian Kai. Xiao Qiye answered him all in full detail. He did not hope to give a perfect answer, all he strove for was to be genuine in his responses. Ji Gang was a person who greatly valued relationships and ties. In his younger years, he messed up in his assignment because of his drinking and caused his adoptive father, Ji Wufen, to lose the favor of Emperor Guangcheng. This had been weighing heavily on his heart. Later on, Duan province fell into the enemy's hands, and he never touched wine again. He did not have Qi Huilian's illustrious reputation for his talents, but he had great prestige amongst the Jinyi Wei. He was the main reason why the group with Ji Qingqing at the head was willing to go all out of their way to help Shen Zequin when Shen Zequin was flogged and thrown into the imperial prison, even extending their assistance to him in the period afterwards. When Ji Gang was still serving as the vice commander in the Jinyi Wei, he rarely abused his authority to oppress the others. He also abhorred Pan Rugui and the likes of him. Again and again, he had helped the innocents to redress the injustices they had suffered, and because of this, he had offended quite a number of powerful officials. When it came to elders like this, Xiao Qiye would not resort to dubious tricks for his own personal advantage and instead have to show his utmost sincerity. Only then would he be able to make Ji Gang see him in a new, more favorable light. Their meal lasted an hour. Ji Gang thought that they still had important matters to discuss, and so he did not stay for long and left early. ******. Xiao Qiye was changing his clothes. When he bared his upper body, He pulled over Shenzequin's hand and placed it on his back to touch it. Shenzequin was still sitting on the mat with a brush in one hand as he calculated the expenses for this period of time. As he touched Xiao Qiye's sweat, he lifted his eyes and said, "Just how nervous were you?" "That was scary." Xiao Qiye swiftly put on his clothes. "I was worried my answers were not sincere enough, and it would alienate Shifu from me even more. I've been really busy this period of time. I will have to find a day later on to talk it over with Shifu." A father loves his child without asking for anything in return. Shenzequin set the brush down. Benefits and profits wouldn't count when it comes to Shifu, only genuine affection and sincere concern. "Second young master has a long way to go. That kick of yours really set you back a long way." Xiao Qiye slumped into the rattan chair. He thought for a moment and said, "If it had been my old man sitting there today, we might not even get to finish the meal." Still feeling the trepidation, Xiao Qiye touched his own chest and looked at Shenzequin, who was deep in thought over the accounts. He held the brush, then set it down, and his sleeve slid down to reveal a portion of fair skin. The expression on his side profile was calm. There was no one else in the room, and his collar that had been slightly loosened because of the heat exposed a snow-white expanse with traces of the bite marks he left on it. How flimsy! For a moment, Xiao Qiye was in a daze as he gazed blankly at Shenzequin. He thought of many things, and yet it also seemed as if he had figured out nothing. "Lanzhou," Xiao Qiye inexplicably called out to him. Shenzequin's mind was in deep contemplation. He just happened to be thinking that he should get Ji Qing to find a few stewards from Juexi who could do the accounts and have them sent over when he suddenly heard Xiao Qiye's voice. Although his eyes never left the accounts book, he turned his face slightly and answered, "Spit it out if you have something to say." Xiao Qiye abruptly stood up, turned around a few times, and suddenly squatted behind Shenzequin to embrace him. Shenzequin was still writing. It was all thanks to the power of his extraordinary focus that he did not mess up his strokes. Xiao Qiye nuzzled against Shenzequin's cheek from behind until Shenzequin's face felt hot. Shenzequin had no idea what was up with Xiao Qiye. Xiao Qiye never said a word as he touched Shenzequin all over and scooped Shenzequin into his arms, clinging onto him like glue. And just like this, Shenzequin sat in Xiao Qiye's embrace and continued to do his accounts. When he ran into difficulty, he got Xiao Qiye to stretch his fingers out, but Xiao Qiye was unwilling to and did the sums orally as he continued to hug him. Surprisingly enough, he was pretty swift in his calculation. "Second young master." Shenzequin pushed the abacus aside. "You have a bit of a knack for this. Calculate these all for me, will you?" Xiao Qiye pulled the abacus back and said, "When I count long enough, I'll fumble. It's so complicated that it's better to hand it over to the professionals. Do you know who in Chu capital is the best in calculations?" Shenzequin replied, "That, I really don't know. Third young Miss Hua Xianji." "So," Shenzequin asked, "then do you know who in Zongbo is the most skilled in employing diversionary tactics to lure the enemies?" Xiao Qiye ventured a guess. "Tan Tai Long. It's Xiao Xian." Shenzequin finally looked at him and said in all seriousness, "Look at him nuzzling away at me until my heart goes all pitter-patter, making me too preoccupied to get down to serious business. I'm unworthy of such reputation." Xiao Qiye moved in closer. "It's only because I saw how sweaty the little young master is and his clothes was in such a state of disarray that I've specifically come over to drop over a reminder or two." "What a real gentleman." Shenzequin brushed the tip of this finger that was moistened with tea water across the back of Xiao Qiye's hand and said, "Unlike me and my thoughts which are going somewhere else." End chapter.